Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Caesar's Palace for 12 rounds of boxing. In the red corner, from Los Angeles, California, wearing the red trunks with the gold trim, weighing in at 125 pounds, the lightweight champion of the world, Danny Little Red Lopez. Well, Bill, our winners get a home theater receiver. That's right. Experience the full potential of high-definition video with this 72-channel digital home theater receiver from Yamaha. But wait, that's not all. They also get a 5.1-channel surround sound system from Mirage. With 5 palm-sized speakers and a compact subwoofer cube, the MX 5.1 brings you huge immersive sound with Mirage's omnipolar technology. All from the Spiegel catalog, Chicago, Illinois, 60609. And they're taking closer order as down the stretch they come. Mr. Hot Stuff has 3 lengths to make up with chocolate candy last. On the rail, take the points behind that gallant son with chocolate candy gaining on the outside. In the lead is Pioneer of the Nile being tackled by chocolate candy. They're neck and neck as they come to the wire. And Pioneer of the Nile holds off chocolate candy and wins the Santa Anita Derby. And now, on your feet, time to greet holder of 14 NBA titles, your home team, your Los Angeles Lakers. Number 3 at 6'8", 5th year out of UCLA, playing forward, Trevor Ariza. Starting at center, number 17 at 7 feet, 4th year out of St. Andrews High School, Andrew Bynum. And at guard, number 24, 6'6", 13th season out of Loyal Marion High School, Kobe Bryant.
Ain't fire a black person? How can you fire a black person? There's gonna be some shit, ain't it? It ain't never a good time to fire a black man. There's always gonna be some controversy. If you fire him in the morning, he got a problem with it. If you come walking in, hey, Bernie, before you punch in, can I talk to you? Yeah, what's the problem? We won't need you anymore. You let me come all the way down here for this bullshit, to tell me this bullshit? If you fire him at the end of the day, it's a goddamn problem. Bernie, can you come off it? Yeah, what's the problem? We don't need you no more. You let me work all motherfucking day, you gonna tell me this? Ain't fire.
Good morning. It's Saturday, Rules Saturday, November the 22nd, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have There's No Free Lunch, Motivation, Meditation, and Rules for Retrogrades. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Thank you. Now, there's no free lunch. 250 Economic Truths by David Bahnsen.
When people who earn more than the average have their surplus, or the greater part of it, seized from them in taxes, and when people who earn less than average have the deficiency, or the greater part of it, turned over to them in handouts and doles, the production of all must sharply decline. For the energetic and able who lose their incentive to produce more than the average and slothful and unskilled lose their incentive to improve their condition. Henry Hazlitt. This binary economic truth that redistribution cuts at the incentive for the productive to be productive and the incentive for the non-productive to be productive is at the heart of a free and virtuous society. We deteriorate freedom when we make the productive less productive, and we deteriorate virtue when we incentivize non-productivity.
And that was There's No Free Lunch by David Bahnsen. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, a little bit of John Kobylt.
117 million gallons is enough for 19,500 tanker trunks full of water.
What?
19,500. Now, if we had a line of 19,500 water trucks leading to the Pacific Palisades, do you think some of those trucks would have put out a few homes?
100%, more than a few homes.
Right. All right. Look at it another way. If we had 19,500 tanker trucks, it would have been a line 148 miles long. Eric, look up. What's 148 miles from Los Angeles? And I'm doing this to show you that the Newsom administration and the Department of Water and Power is simply full of steaming horse crap. You telling me a line of 148 miles of tanker trucks would have no effect on the fire? 148 miles.
You want to know how far 148 miles south of Los Angeles is?
Yeah.
Ensenada, Mexico.
Okay. Now visualize that on the 405. Imagine 148 miles of traffic leading you all the way into Ensenada, Mexico. And probably most days we have a traffic jam that's close to 148 miles. I mean, it's all tanks full of water. No effect on the Palisades fire? Really? Tanker trucks from here to Ensenada.
Anyways, that was John Kobylt.
He called up and said, I want you to read something. I went over.
There we go. That's not John Kobylt. Anyways, so that was John Kobylt. And he's on to something here. Because this issue is something that cuts both ways. It's about property for the right, but it's about carbon dioxide for the left. Now, the trick here, the reason he's explaining it, is because the new fire chief came out and said, well, even if the reservoir, which was empty, had been full of water, the water in there would have been insufficient to put out the fires. So in other words, he's basically saying it wouldn't have mattered. Okay. And it's a slick argument because then what it does is it puts people like John Kobylt on the defensive. Then they rush out to go ahead and justify, rationalize, and explain. Come up with the facts. Do some research. And the problem is when you explain, you lose. Perhaps a better way of approaching this would be simply, it wouldn't have been enough to put out the fires, but would it have been enough to have reduced the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere? And he'll choke on that one. Because again, that's the issue that Karen Bass's constituents are really interested in. When you're talking about this fire, you have to always come back to carbon dioxide. They can't win that argument. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, rules for retrogrades.
Rule 17.
Never ever frag a fellow retrograde. This is a modification of President Reagan's rule. Never say anything negative about a fellow conservative. The only misbehavior worth correcting a retrograde over is selling out by directly pandering to the enemy and or committing intrinsically evil violations of the Decalogue. The retrograde must never presume to impugn a fellow retrograde for his manners or style. Never correct a retrograde for a moderate or minor etiquette breach, especially if the retrograde being impugned has a strong track record of good work exposing radicals and cooperating with fellow retrogrades. The most prominent current instance of the violation of this rule involves petty virtue signaling by white knight retrogrades, along with a generous helping of true mods who have appointed themselves the tone of voice police. Not only does constant tone of voice self-recrimination by retrogrades condemn many of our best people and generate endless infighting, but most importantly, it promotes a right-wing version of a toxic ingredient of radicalism, relativism. As the name implies, relativism absolutizes the relative and relativizes the absolute. Tone of voice is an article of each human being's prudential judgment, meaning that harsh or mellow, sweet or sour, loud or quiet, it cannot be judged according to the same absolute moral and logical standards that one's words can be. Radicals prefer to police their interlocutor's tone of voice precisely because so doing allows them to obviate the plain truth by swapping what is absolute, text, for what is relative, tone. Radicals also prefer it because they fear the fact that righteous men often harbor heated righteous anger in view of radical injustice. Radicals can avoid just chastisement by asserting that there is no proper occasion for indignation, which is a lie. The retrograde cannot allow himself or his righteous anger to appear to be bested by the tepid illogic of radicalism. The foolish chastisement and finger-wagging at retrogrades by fellow retrogrades threatens to do just this, however. Accordingly, a retrograde should never get preachy or become a white knight with regard to another retrograde's angry tone of voice. Naturally, the radicals rejoice in such defeatism, fatalism, and infighting by the retrogrades, since it wins for them a contest they could not otherwise win. Reasonable minds will differ. To say reasonable minds can differ is to commit oneself to a certain eventual misunderstanding. No two human beings are possessed of a single identical mind. Accordingly, it is only a matter of time before the finest two theoretical retrograde minds will come to disagree about some minor matter. Even middling matters of intra-Christian disagreement are not hills on which any of the good guys should die. We want them all to live to fight another day. In this age, the good guys should err on the side of feistiness and fustiness with foes. They should err on the side of friendliness and fellow feeling with friends. It's that simple. Yet the average Christian today is thrice as likely to cry out, "Charity! Charity!" when he hears his fellow Christian dialoguing with the enemy, and he's thrice as likely to call down the thunder upon that grouchy Christian who might have darkened his tone of voice in dialogue with that anti-Christian. This rule enjoins retrogrades to reverse this perverse trend. Lastly, one wonders, how should disagreement among retrogrades be handled? The answer is simple: charitably, professionally, technically, scholastically, above all, privately. A retrograde's technical or logical errors of reasoning, never to be confused with a non-preferred tone of voice or approach, should indeed be pointed out by his friends, but the manner of correction should be private and dignified. It should be an amicable boon to the errant retrograde himself, with the purpose of restoring his recto ratio, right reason, a recovery he will, as a wise man, welcome. Correct a sagacious man, and he will thank you for it, as the saying goes. Naturally, this sort of self-quarantine in the retrograde camp is to be lauded, not condemned. We reserve our condemnations for the radicals themselves and for petty, turncoating, infighting.
And that was Rule 17 from Rules for Retrogrades, 40 Tactics to Defeat the Radical Left by Timothy J. and David R. Gordon. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, some motivation.
If the lion is the king of the jungle, how can he be the king of the jungle? If he's not the biggest, the elephant is probably one of the biggest. He can't be the fastest because that's a cheetah. He can't be the smartest. So he's not the biggest, the fastest, or the smartest. So how does a lion become the king of the jungle? His mentality. That's the only difference of a lion and an elephant. When a lion walks up and sees an elephant, he thinks lunch. An elephant thinks run. And it's all mentality. Because when a male lion walks up, he may be outnumbered by a pack of hyenas, but I'm king of my jungle because of my mentality.
What happens when you're a gazelle and you're not being pushed? You're not being prodded. You're not given a reward. Nobody's encouraging you. What happens when you're a gazelle and the lion's not chasing anymore? You stop running. What happens when you're a lion? When you're a lion, it does not make a difference. You realize that if your family is going to eat, that if that pack of lions is to survive, then you gotta go hunt. A part of being a beast just ain't eating a gazelle. A part of being a beast is the hunt. It's the hunt that they're excited about. They like to see the gazelles run. Then boom, they take off. Because real lions like to hunt. They love the process just as much as they love the prize. And some of y'all just want to score. You don't like the process. You're not in love with the process. A true hunter's goal is not the prize. A true hunter's goal is to hunt. That's what they live for. They live to hunt. They don't just live to catch it. It's the whole process. When you are a true hunter, you don't go by time. You go by the gazelle. When you are a true hunter, you hunt until you get a gazelle, and you don't stop until you get one. And then you get another, and then you get another, and you get another. If you're going to do what you say you're going to do, be what you say you're going to be, you're going to have to lion me out. You a gazelle, you're going to come up short. You a gazelle, you're going to have an average experience. You a student, I need you in lion mode. You an entrepreneur, I need you in lion mode. You trying to lose weight, lion mode. You can't do nothing significant in gazelle mode. Nothing. Nothing impressive happens in gazelle mode. Nothing happens in run mode, give up mode, quit mode, scared mode, fearful mode. Nothing happens. Everything happens in lion mode like I'm coming to get you.
And that was a little bit of motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now a little bit of meditation.
Hello, my lovely friends. Welcome to Zen Yet Meditation. Take a moment to sit or lie down in a way that feels easy and natural. Let your hands rest. Let your eyes gently close. There is nowhere else you need to be. You are safe. You are here. Bring your awareness inward. Feel your body. Feel the ground beneath you. Notice your breath without changing it. Just observe is your moment of stillness. Now, take a slow, deep breath in and exhale gently. Again in and out. With each breath, soften your body. Feel your shoulders release, your jaw relax. Let go. In your mind's eye, imagine a radiant orb of golden light just above your head. It glows warm like the sun, gentle, loving, peaceful. Slowly it lowers and touches the crown of your head, filling you with soft, healing warmth. The light moves down through your neck, your chest, your arms. Down through your spine, your hips, your legs, and your feet. Every cell absorbs the light. You are not just in the light, you are the light. Calm, clear, whole. Now feel that light expanding beyond you, radiating outward from your chest, your heart, your presence. It fills the room and stretches far beyond. You shine effortlessly. Silently repeat, I am the light. I am calm. I am centered. Let these words sink into your being. Begin to return slowly. Wiggle your fingers, your toes. Take a full breath in and release. When you're ready, open your eyes gently. Carry the light with you into your day. Remind this to yourself, I am the light, and it lives within me. Thank you for being. See you in the next meditation.
And that was a little bit of meditation. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now from, I believe this is Newsmax, and called America Right Now. And this guy, I don't know who the guy is that's the host, is interviewing Senator Johnson.
Quickly, Senator, I want to switch gears with you and get your reaction to this. A group of Democratic lawmakers with military and intelligence backgrounds, they put out a very controversial video the other day because it seems that they want service members to defy the orders of the commander-in-chief. Take a look at this. Right now, the
threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad, but from right here at home. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
As a member of the Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs, your reaction to what I think is a pretty extraordinary effort on the part of Democrats and message to members of our military.
Okay, so I want to interrupt real quick and say this is an opportunity for the Republicans to beat the Democrats on this particular issue. Right now, the Republicans are resisting. Bad idea, psychologically and propaganda-wise. It's a really bad idea for them to resist because it makes them look like they have something to fear. And that's the whole point of having these 6 senators coming out and urging the troops to disobey illegal orders. What the Republicans should do is co-opt the message. So what they can do, the Republicans, is come out and say yes, like Donald Trump could do it. Say yes, you should disobey all illegal orders such as DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, any law that requires you or any order that requires you to promote somebody on the basis of anything other than merit should be ignored. So that's a good example right there. And there's a lot of, I'm sure, other Democrat ideas that they've put in the military and in the intelligence communities that the president could then use as examples. So you co-opt the message and put the Democrats now on the defensive. Now they have to decide, well, we're going to continue to urge them to disobey orders which would include, according to President Trump, the very ideas that we have put in place. Back to the interview real quick.
It is utterly disgusting. It is outrageous. They're inciting insurrection, just like the left incites violent protests. Again, the violence in our politics today has primarily come from the left. This, again, is disgusting and outrageous. They ought to retract it. They ought to apologize. There's just no room for that type of thing in today's America. That is just sick.
All right, well, we're going to have to leave it there. But going back to health care, after 15 years of failure and Republicans perennially promising to replace the system, now may be the time, and we're going to be following your progress. Senator Ron Johnson, thank you so much.
Okay, so that brings up the second point, which is health care, and he's very soft about it. Well, hopefully, maybe, possibly this is a time. Bull. These people are representatives. They're not leaders. They don't get to make the decisions as to what to do, when to do, how to do. We make those decisions, and we tell them to do it. They work for us, literally. So with the Republicans, the way to get their attention, and with the Democrats as well, is by withholding money. Anytime that they're asking me for money up front, in other words, on spec, when they say, oh, please send us money so we can change Obamacare, or we can defeat the Democrats over here, or do this or do that or the other thing, I ignore it. No way. And I've told people, call me on the phone from the Republican National Committee and say, please donate. And I tell them, I'm not going to give you a nickel until you get something done. When you get this done, that done, and the other thing done, then call me, so I'll pay on the back end. Once you have kept your promises, then I will reward you for that, or consider rewarding you for it in terms of a donation. So that's the way to get these folks' attention and get them off their dead ass to do what it is we tell them to do. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, The Return of the Primitive by Ayn Rand.
The Comprachicos. 1. The Comprachicos, or Comprapequeños, were a strange and hideous nomadic association, famous in the 17th century, forgotten in the 18th, unknown today. Comprachicos, as well as Comprapequeños, is a compound Spanish word that means child buyers. The Comprachicos traded in children. They bought them and sold them. They did not steal them. The kidnapping of children is a different industry. And what did they make of these children? Monsters. Why monsters? To laugh. The people needs laughter, so do the kings. Cities require sideshow freaks or clowns. Palaces require jesters. To succeed in producing a freak, one must get hold of him early. A dwarf must be started when he is small. Hence, an art. There were educators. They took a man and turned him into a miscarriage. They took a face and made a muzzle. They stunted growth. They mangled features. This artificial production of teratological cases had its own rules. It was a whole science. Imagine an inverted orthopedics. Where God had put a straight glance, this art put a squint. Where God had put harmony, they put deformity. Where God had put perfection, they brought back a botched attempt. And in the eyes of connoisseurs, it is the botched that was perfect. The practice of degrading man leads one to the practice of deforming him. Deformity completes the task of political suppression. The Comprachicos had a talent to disfigure that made them valuable in politics. To disfigure is better than to kill. There was the iron mask, but that is an awkward means. One cannot populate Europe with iron masks. Deformed mountebanks, however, run through the streets without appearing implausible. Besides, an iron mask can be torn off. A mask of flesh cannot. To mask you forever by means of your own face, nothing can be more ingenious. The Comprachicos did not merely remove a child's face. They removed his memory. At least, they removed as much of it as they could. The child was not aware of the mutilation he had suffered. This horrible surgery left traces on his face, not in his mind. He could remember at most that one day he had been seized by some men, then had fallen asleep, and later they had cured him. Cured him of what? He did not know. Of the burning by sulfur and the incisions by iron, he remembered nothing. During the operation, the Comprachicos made the little patient unconscious by means of a stupefying powder that passed for magic and suppressed pain. In China, since time immemorial, they have achieved refinement in a special art and industry, the molding of a living man. One takes a child 2 or 3 years old, one puts him into a porcelain vase, more or less grotesque in shape, without cover or bottom, so that the head and feet protrude. In the daytime, one keeps this vase standing upright. At night, one lays it down, so that the child can sleep. Thus the child expands without growing, slowly filling the contours of the vase with his compressed flesh and twisted bones. This bottled development continues for several years. At a certain point, it becomes irreparable. When one judges that this has occurred and that the monster is made, one breaks the vase, the child comes out, and one has a man in the shape of a pot. Victor Hugo, The Man Who Laughs, translation mine. Victor Hugo wrote this in the 19th century. His exalted mind could not conceive that so unspeakable a form of inhumanity could ever be possible again. The 20th century proved him wrong. The production of monsters, helpless, twisted monsters, whose normal development has been stunted, goes on all around us. But the modern heirs of the Comprachicos are smarter and subtler than their predecessors. They do not hide. They practice their trade in the open. They do not buy children. The children are delivered to them. They do not use sulfur or iron. They achieve their goal without ever laying a finger on their little victims. The ancient Comprachicos hid the operation but displayed its results. Their heirs have reversed the process. The operation is open. The results are invisible. In the past, this horrible surgery left traces on a child's face, not in his mind. Today, it leaves traces in his mind, not on his face. In both cases, the child is not aware of the mutilation he has suffered. But today's Comprachicos do not use narcotic powders. They take a child before he is fully aware of reality and never let him develop that awareness. Where nature had put a normal brain, they put mental retardation. To make you unconscious for life by means of your own brain, nothing can be more ingenious. This is the ingenuity practiced by most of today's educators. They are the Comprachicos of the mind. They do not place a child into a vase to adjust his body to its contours. They place him into a progressive nursery school to adjust him to society. The progressive nursery schools start a child's education at the age of 3. Their view of a child's needs is militantly anti-cognitive and anti-conceptual. A child of that age, they claim, is too young for cognitive training. His natural desire is not to learn, but to play. The development of his conceptual faculty, they claim, is an unnatural burden that should not be imposed on him. He should be free to act on his spontaneous urges and feelings in order to express his subconscious desires, hostilities, and fears. The primary goal of a progressive nursery school is social adjustment. This is to be achieved by means of group activities, in which a child is expected to develop both self-expression, in the form of anything he might feel like doing, and conformity to the group. For a presentation of the essentials of the progressive nursery school's theories and practice, as contrasted to the rationality of the Montessori nursery schools, I refer you to The Montessori Method by Beatrice Hessen in The Objectivist, May through July 1970. Give me a child for the first 7 years, says a famous maxim attributed to the Jesuits, and you may do what you like with him afterwards. This is true of most children, with rare, heroically independent exceptions. The first 5 or 6 years of a child's life are crucial to his cognitive development. They determine not the content of his mind, but its method of functioning, its psychoepistemology. Psychoepistemology is the study of man's cognitive processes from the aspect of the interaction between man's conscious mind and the automatic functions of his subconscious. At birth, a child's mind is tabula rasa. He has the potential of awareness, the mechanism of a human consciousness, but no content. Speaking metaphorically, he has a camera with an extremely sensitive, unexposed film, his conscious mind, and an extremely complex computer waiting to be programmed, his subconscious. Both are blank. He knows nothing of the external world. He faces an immense chaos which he must learn to perceive by means of the complex mechanism which he must learn to operate. If in any 2 years of adult life, men could learn as much as an infant learns in his first 2 years, they would have the capacity of genius. To focus his eyes, which is not an innate but an acquired skill, to perceive the things around him by integrating his sensations into percepts, which is not an innate but an acquired skill, to coordinate his muscles for the task of crawling, then standing upright, then walking, and ultimately to grasp the process of concept formation and learn to speak. These are some of an infant's tasks and achievements whose magnitude is not equaled by most men in the rest of their lives. These achievements are not conscious and volitional in the adult sense of the terms. An infant is not aware, in advance, of the processes he has to perform in order to acquire these skills. And the processes are largely automatic. But they are acquired skills nevertheless, and the enormous effort expended by an infant to acquire them can be easily observed. Observe also the intensity, the austere, the unsmiling seriousness with which an infant watches the world around him. If you ever find in an adult that degree of seriousness about reality, you will have found a great man. A child's cognitive development is not completed by the time he is 3 years old. It is just about to begin in the full human conceptual sense of the term. He has merely traveled through the anteroom of cognition and acquired the prerequisites of knowledge, the rudimentary mental tools he needs to begin to learn. His mind is in a state of eager, impatient flux. He is unable to catch up with the impressions bombarding him from all sides. He wants to know everything and at once. After the gigantic effort to acquire his mental tools, he has an overwhelming need to use them. For him, the world has just begun. It is an intelligible world now. The chaos is in his mind, which he has not yet learned to organize. This is his next conceptual task. His every experience is a discovery. Every impression it leaves in his mind is new, but he is not able to think in such terms. To him, it is the world that's new. What Columbus felt when he landed in America, what the astronauts felt when they landed on the moon, is what a child feels when he discovers the Earth, between the ages of 2 and 7. Do you think that Columbus's first desire was to adjust to the natives, or that the astronaut's first wish was to engage in fantasy play? This is a child's position at about the age of 3. The next 3 or 4 years determine the brightness or the misery of his future. They program the cognitive functions of his subconscious computer. The subconscious is an integrating mechanism. Man's conscious mind observes and establishes connections among his experiences. The subconscious integrates the connections and makes them become automatic. For example, the skill of walking is acquired after many faltering attempts by the automatization of countless connections controlling muscular movements once he learns to walk. A child needs no conscious awareness of such problems as posture, balance, length of step, etc. The mere decision to walk brings the integrated total into his control. A mind's cognitive development involves a continual process of automatization. For example, you cannot perceive a table as an infant perceives it, as a mysterious object with 4 legs. You perceive it as a table, i.e. a man-made piece of furniture, serving a certain purpose belonging to a human habitation, etc. You cannot separate these attributes from your sight of the table. You experience it as a single, indivisible percept. Yet all you see is a 4-legged object. The rest is an automatized integration of a vast amount of conceptual knowledge which at one time you had to learn bit by bit. The same is true of everything you perceive or experience. As an adult, you cannot perceive or experience in a vacuum. You do it in a certain automatized context, and the efficiency of your mental operations depends on the kind of context your subconscious has automatized. Learning to speak is a process of automatizing the use, i.e. the meaning and the application of concepts. And more, all learning involves a process of automatizing, i.e. of first acquiring knowledge by fully conscious, focused attention and observation, then of establishing mental connections which make that knowledge automatic. instantly available as a context, thus freeing man's mind to pursue further, more complex knowledge. Introduction to Objectivist Epistemology. The process of forming, integrating, and using concepts is not an automatic but a volitional process, i.e., a process which uses both new and automatized material, but which is directed volitionally. It is not an innate but an acquired skill. It has to be learned. It is the most crucially important part of learning, and all of man's other capacities depend on how well or how badly he learns it. This skill does not pertain to the particular content of a man's knowledge at any given age, but to the method by which he acquires and organizes knowledge, the method by which his mind deals with its content. The method programs his subconscious computer, determining how efficiently, lamely, or disastrously his cognitive processes will function. The programming of a man's subconscious consists of the kind of cognitive habits he acquires. These habits constitute his psychoepistemology. It is a child's early experiences, observations, and subverbal conclusions that determine this programming. Thereafter, the interaction of content and method establishes a certain reciprocity. The method of acquiring knowledge affects its content, which affects the further development of the method, and so on. In the flux of a child's countless impressions and momentary conclusions, the crucial ones are those that pertain to the nature of the world around him and to the efficacy of his mental efforts. The words that would name the essence of the long, wordless process taking place in a child's mind are two questions: where am I? And is it worth it? The child's answers are not set in words. They are set in the form of certain reactions which become habitual, i.e., automatized. He does not conclude that the universe is benevolent and that thinking is important. He develops an eager curiosity about every new experience and a desire to understand it. Subconsciously, in terms of automatized mental processes, he develops the implicit equivalent of two fundamental premises, which are the cornerstones of his future sense of life, i.e., of his metaphysics and epistemology, long before he is able to grasp such concepts consciously. Does a child conclude that the world is intelligible and proceed to expand his understanding by the effort of conceptualizing on an ever wider scale with growing success and enjoyment? Or does he conclude that the world is a bewildering chaos, where the fact he grasped today is reversed tomorrow, where the more he sees, the more helpless he becomes, and consequently, does he retreat into the cellar of his own mind, locking its door? Does a child reach the stage of self-consciousness, i.e., does he grasp the distinction between consciousness and existence, between his mind and the outside world, which leads him to understand that the task of the first is to perceive the second, which leads to the development of his critical faculty and of control over his mental operations? Or does he remain in an indeterminate haze, never certain of whether he feels or perceives, of where one ends and the other begins, which leads him to feel trapped between two unintelligible states of flux, the chaos within and without? Does a child learn to identify, to categorize, to integrate his experiences, and thus acquire the self-confidence needed to develop a long-range vision? Or does he learn to see nothing but the immediate moment and the feelings it produces, never venturing to look beyond it, never establishing any context but an emotional one, which leads him eventually to a stage where, under the pressure of any strong emotion, his mind disintegrates and reality vanishes? These are the kinds of issues and answers that program a child's mind in the first years of his life, as his subconscious automatizes one set of cognitive psycho-epistemological habits or the other, or a continuum of degrees of precarious mixtures between the two extremes. The ultimate result is that by the age of about 7, a child acquires the capacity to develop a vast conceptual context which will accompany and illuminate his every experience, creating an ever-growing chain of automatized connections, expanding the power of his intelligence with every year of his life. Or a child shrivels as his mind shrinks, leaving only a nameless anxiety in the vacuum that should have been filled by his growing brain. Intelligence is the ability to deal with a broad range of abstractions. Whatever a child's natural endowment, the use of intelligence is an acquired skill. It has to be acquired by a child's own effort and automatized by his own mind. But adults can help or hinder him in this crucial process. They can place him in an environment that provides him with evidence of a stable, consistent, intelligible world which challenges and rewards his efforts to understand, or in an environment where nothing connects to anything. Nothing holds long enough to grasp, nothing is answered, nothing is certain, where the incomprehensible and unpredictable lurks behind every corner and strikes him at any random step. The adults can accelerate or hamper, retard and perhaps destroy the development of his conceptual faculty. Dr. Montessori's own handbook indicates the nature and extent of the help that a child needs at the time he enters nursery school. He has learned to identify objects. He has not learned to abstract attributes, i.e., consciously to identify things such as height, weight, color, or number. He has barely acquired the ability to speak. He is not yet able to grasp the nature of this, to him, amazing skill, and he needs training in its proper use, i.e., training in conceptualization. It is psycho-epistemological training that Dr. Montessori had in mind, though this is not her term, when she wrote the following about her method. The didactic material, in fact, does not offer to the child the content of the mind, but the order for that content. The mind has formed itself by a special exercise of attention, observing, comparing, and classifying. The mental attitude acquired by such an exercise leads the child to make ordered observations in his environment, observations which prove as interesting to him as discoveries, and so stimulate him to multiply them indefinitely and to form in his mind a rich content of clear ideas. Language now comes to fix, by means of exact words, the ideas which the mind has acquired. In this way, the children are able to find themselves alike in the world of natural things and in the world of objects and of words which surround them, for they have an inner guide which leads them to become active and intelligent explorers instead of wandering wayfarers in an unknown land. Maria Montessori, Dr. Montessori's own handbook, New York, Schocken Books, 1965, pages 137 through 138. The purposeful, disciplined use of his intelligence is the highest achievement possible to man. It is that which makes him human. The higher the skill, the earlier in life its learning should be started. The same holds true in reverse for those who seek to stifle a human potential. To succeed in producing the atrophy of intelligence, a state of man-made stupidity, one must get hold of the victim early. A mental dwarf must be started when he is small. This is the art and science practiced by the comprachicos of the mind. At the age of 3, when his mind is almost as plastic as his bones, when his need and desire to know are more intense than they will ever be again, a child is delivered, by a progressive nursery school, into the midst of a pack of children as helplessly ignorant as himself. He is not merely left without cognitive guidance, he is actively discouraged and prevented from pursuing cognitive tasks. He wants to learn. He is told to play. Why? No answer is given. He is made to understand by the emotional vibrations permeating the atmosphere of the place.
And that was the first part of Chapter 6. Chapter 6, the Comparchicos, is a chapter that's a little bit over an hour long. So I've been dividing up into 4 sections. And that was Section 1 of Return of the Primitive by Ayn Rand, The Anti-Industrial Revolution, and it's read by Bernadette Dunn. Back in a minute. Thank you. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States. Today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, and reminding you that you're not neutral, and have a nice evening.